it has been a while. So we did not do an end week 2 update for my 30 days of Instagram challenge because about halfway through week 2, my daughter got sick, and then on Monday of this past week, a week ago, I got sick. So the flu hit our house pretty hard. So I did not get a week 2 update. So this is going to be a week 2 and week 3 update video. So I'm going to talk about what things I did during those 2 weeks, what things I tried differently, and what I thought was working and what was not, and things I want to improve on for the last week because I think this is it. I'm done February 2nd, I think. February 4th, I'm done. So 2 weeks of data, 2 weeks of information. But first, let me give you a standing of where I'm at right now. And again, I'm going to post a view only link of my spreadsheet in this video. So if you would like to see where I'm tracking all my stats, you can see all of that. You can see like the ridiculous numbers on there. But I think it's good for visibility and for you to see that I'm not like making these numbers up. Not that I would. Like if you're going to make up numbers, I'm not going to make up numbers like these. Um, but also to see like the reality of doing something like this. So just to give you where we are as of the end of week 3, so as of yesterday, my Instagram is at a total of 495 followers. So that is a net growth of only 6 followers in 3 weeks. But it is net growth, which last time I tried to do this, I did not see any growth. Uh, my Instagram engagements for the end of week 2 was 20 total engagements, and then it was 29 for week 3. My story views for week 2 were a total of 13, but they were up to 102 in week 3. I still did not get any email signups or website clicks from that, but I did have 2 wholesale orders come through. Did they find me on Instagram? I don't know, probably not. They probably found me through some stuff on Fair. But again, I do want to point out that the increased visibility can contribute to things like that. If they checked me out on Fair and saw my Instagram as active, maybe that led them to be more likely to purchase a wholesale purchase. So what worked, what didn't? Let's go back to week 2. So week 2, I started the week with 492 followers, and I ended the week with 496. Now that growth was very surprising compared to the previous week where I'd only gained 1 or 2. Actually, I started that week with 490, so I gained 6. Um, that was a lot of people following me back. So what I did that week on Instagram is when it would recommend people for me to follow, I actually like took the time to look through them and see who I wanted to follow. So I was following people who are knitting influencers. I was following yarn dyers. I was following yarn shops. These were all people whose content I wanted to see, whose stuff I was interested in, and whose brands I thought were pretty well aligned with mine. Um, it was not following them with the intent that they were going to follow me back. I actually started laughing when I first saw that these people started following me back because that was actually not part of my growth strategy. It was just me wanting to curate my Instagram feed a little bit. So I got a decent amount of follows from that week. But like I said, it wasn't intentional. I don't recommend like a follow for follow kind of strategy. But what I will say is if you see profiles recommended that look like they are aligned with your brand or something you would be interested in, it's worth following them for that. But then there's always the possibility that they will follow back. If I had been on top of it, if I had been aware this is what was going to happen, I might have had an outreach strategy then to message them and thank them for following and tell them what I liked about their stuff. But I was just kind of like, oh, shoot, look at what happened. The engagements that week were a little interesting. So it was 20 over the course of the entire week, the total number of like post engagements. So I averaged 3 engagements a day, but what I saw was like I had 4 and then 0 and then 8 and then 4 and 4 and then 0 and 0. So it was like up and down. But what I have noticed is that Saturday and Sunday, the last 2 days, have consistently low engagement for me. I don't know if it's because I maybe am not posting the right stuff for the weekend or what, but Saturday and Sunday are really low engagement for me. And so what that tells me is that maybe I don't need to post stuff on the weekend. My Instagram story views, I only had 13 story views that week. 3 views on the first post and 10 later that day. I don't really remember what I posted and why. I think I was just resharing stuff from my feed. So I get that if it's stuff that people had already seen. So I wasn't too terribly worried about the story views. That's just how it was. Facebook, I lost 2 followers that week. Um, Facebook had 7 engagements, which was down from the previous week of 11. And Facebook had 1 website click through. But other than that, neither of them drove anyone to my email list for signups. But I did see an uptick in Instagram followers and Instagram story views. The engagement was a bit down on Instagram. And again, I'm not sure why. I mean, I was testing out more reels, so I don't know if it was that. So that second week was a little wonky. So week 3 was pretty stable. Started at 496, ended at 495. Probably lost a bot there, which is fine, no big deal. Um, I will say last week I was sick, and so I had some content pre-scheduled, but this is one where I was getting behind on content creation because my daughter had been sick the week before and then I got sick. So I didn't have content going out every day like I had planned on. I had some stuff, I was able to scroll some stuff on my phone and get something up there, but it was not my highest quality stuff and it was not what I had planned on putting up. That's not what was in my Instagram plan. That being said, I had 29 engagements on Instagram last week, and my highest was actually on the 21st. 19 engagements that day, which was my highest single day engagement rate. And I think that might have been when I posted the pictures of the thrummed mittens, the fake out thrum mittens by Cynthia Spencer, because I tagged her in it. I tagged her as a collaborator. And so what I saw was that actually bumped up a lot of engagement as well. And so if you have something like that where you're creating something from someone else's pattern or using someone else's supplies, tag them in it. And if you can, tag them as a collaborator because then it shows up on their feed and it shows up in the feed to their followers as well. And so if you're able to do that and you have someone who is willing to, accept being tagged as a collaborator, one, it means they're showing up to your entire audience, so it benefits them, but then you show up to theirs. And so that can be beneficial as well. My Instagram stories, I only posted 2 stories that week, but I had 102 story views between those two. They were much higher engagement stories, and I had a poll. People were filling out the poll, and so that was really good to see. So those obviously perform much better than just some static ones. Again, no website clicks or email signups, but what I also realized is maybe I should have put a link to sign up for my email list in one of those stories. So we're going to test that this week. Facebook did not have a whole lot, in part because I realized that even when I schedule stuff on Instagram through Canva, it I was under the impression when I posted things on Instagram, Instagram pushed it to Facebook. That is apparently not the case if it's scheduled through another app. So it was scheduled through Canva. So it would go up on Instagram, but it wouldn't push to Facebook. So I lost a lot of traction on Facebook because none of that stuff was cross posting. So Facebook had basically no stats last week for me. I mean, it had 10 engagements overall. And again, I think that was because of one of Cynthia's things, but not a lot going on there. And again, I did not realize things were not being cross posted. So as I go into this last week, where do we stand? So ultimately, my goal had been to add 30 followers, to go from 489 to 519. 519. I don't think I'm gonna get there. I would need essentially 13 more, 23 more followers in the next 7 days. Am I going to hit that? Probably not, because that is 3 followers a day, every day for the rest of the week. And while I have content that's going to go out, I'm not sure that it's the kind of content that's going to drive new follows. But that's okay, because what I did see is that while my content alone is not bringing in new follows, The right content brings in an increased engagement. And so, what I want to do is continue leveraging that engagement, see if I can continue to amplify that and increase that as well, and see if that does start to snowball. And I think part of it also will be I have a new product, like a mini launch that I can announce this week that might help a little bit as well. So, just some small things that I can do to get that going. And so, as we're going into the last week of this experiment, what are some of my lessons learned? One, having a content plan before you get started is huge because I didn't have to sit there with my phone and be like, oh my God, like, what am I going to post about today? What should I share about? Like, going through and spending that first day creating a content plan with Claude or with ChatGPT made this process so much easier. And even when I was struggling to find visuals that matched that content, it at least gave me a starting point. And that kept me from not even beginning. So I really do think that that is a great approach. The next thing is I would create more templates, I think, through Instagram. I would have a template for doing my reels, doing my posts, and doing my stories. And I would leverage Canva's scheduling tool a lot more. I was creating it on my computer. I'd go to my phone, I'd download it from my phone, I'd upload it from my phone, and that was a hassle. And then I couldn't copy the text I created on my computer. So I think moving forward, I would use a lot more of the Canva scheduling capabilities so that I can do it all from my computer. I can sit down, I can batch it all out in a week, and then I don't have to worry about it when I'm sick, which was really hard. The other thing is just spending more time getting videos. So I did finally get a video of me working on some projects. I tried to get more pictures of me with things, but just asking my husband or my kids to vote video some of the stuff I'm doing, just so I have more content for that as well. And also, I think accessing more of my old footage. I mean, I've moved so many times that people who know me would know, like, oh, that's really old footage. But honestly, does it matter? Like, if what I'm talking about is still the same, if the concept is still the same, it doesn't matter if it's old footage, and I've already got it. Oh man, sorry guys. So so we did see a big uptick in week 2 of followers, and in week 3 we saw a big uptake in engagement and reactions. And so the goal now would be how many of those new followers and those increased engagements can we get onto our website in our email list. And so that's what we're going to try this week. This week is definitely more about how can I promote what I'm doing, how can I sell what I'm doing, how can we really get people on board with buying these products? And so that's what we're going to focus on and see how it goes. But I still think it was a success. And if anyone wants to do a second 30 days of Instagram challenge with me, I may look at doing one in March, where I will actually go through and help you all create your content plan ahead of time. So we'll do it together, use some of the AI tools to create that content plan, figure out what you're going to share and post, and keep each other accountable and excited for each other. So, do have a question in the chat. So, what do I think increased engagement? So, Ro, that's a really great question. Um, I think the first thing that increased engagement is that I shared a work in progress that my audience would enjoy. So, I sell accessories for knitters and crocheters, and so my big thing was um, I shared some videos I did of me getting started on a new project where I was talking about the pattern and the yarn and why I chose it. And then, so I had like a couple reels of that. And then after those reels, I did some static posts of my in progress knitting. So, like a half finished mitten and then my son wearing the full finished mittens. And so I think that increased engagement because people were actively seeing this project progress in their news feed, and got them interested. And it wasn't just like, I'm creating this thing to sell, but it was like, I'm creating this thing because I saw a kit and it was cool. Or for me, it was, I'm creating these mittens because it's going to be negative 10 degrees overnight. So obviously, I need new mittens. Um, so, how does that translate to anyone else? I think if you look at the things you do that are cousins to what you sell or what you offer, that can always be beneficial. So if you are creating felt decorations. Sharing an in progress of all your felt decorations doesn't always, wouldn't always create increased engagement. But if you could do a time lapse of you decorating your table for the next holiday, that might create increased engagement. Or, I'm excited for this food that I made that goes along with this holiday. So figure out what things are related to what it is you sell or what you do and share those. I also think polls definitely did increase my engagement. So in my stories, I did do a poll. And it was a really basic poll. I asked, are you a chaos crafter or an organized crafter? And that got so many responses. So figure out what your audience feels very strongly about and put up a poll like that. For some people, it could be, so I'm from the Midwest, I could have put a poll up of it's 3 inches of snow on the ground. Are you wearing shorts or are you actually putting on pants? Because in the Midwest, people put on shorts and a sweatshirt to go outside in the snow. So, what kind of questions is your audience like anxious and ready to chime in on? And again, that can be kind of challenging to figure out. And this is where I really like tools like AI. So we can go into Chat GPT and say, here's what I make, here's who my audience is. What kind of polls would they be interested in answering? Making sure it's nothing serious, keeping it lighthearted, things like that. So definitely bringing them along the ride on a project I was working on. That was one. And then polls are definitely, you always get increased engagement with that. People just love giving their opinion on things. So I think those are two things that really helped with the increased engagement. But we're going to test it this week. We're going to see how it goes because my project is done now and I have nothing else interesting to share because now I'm just working on a stupid sweater that never ends. Um, so we're going to see if I can keep that increased engagement going, or if I need to test something else out and see what works with that. So that was just kind of what I saw going on from there. But like I said, I'm going to share my tracker so y'all can see the massive amounts of zeros on there, but also the fact that like there are points where you definitely see that there was some traction. And I may even try and pull like the actual, like a link to the actual post that was made on that day so we can see like what was the content that drove this. And if we can glean any like broader trends from that as well. And so those are some things I'm gonna work on the back end. If I can pull like a full report so you all can see exactly what I posted and the direct correlation of the results from that, and we'll see how that goes. So I'm thankful that you all have joined with me on this journey, and have been observing or checking out what I've been trying here. My goal is always I want to make sure that we're talking about the realistic side of social media because so often we'll see people come in and say, hey, you're going to grow 1,000 followers in a week. But oftentimes these are people who already have huge audiences or um, they have content in place or a team in place that can really make that happen. And what I want to show is like, if you are the only person doing this, you're not going to do 1,000 in a week, but like, what can we do so that you can at least be seeing consistent growth? Because the goal for me is always let's be consistent. Going viral sounds exciting until it tanks your business. And so I don't shoot for going viral. I shoot for steady, sustainable, and scalable growth. And that's hopefully what we're going to get with this. So if anyone has any other questions or would like to hear anything else about those week 2 and week 3 data, drop a comment on the video here. Otherwise, like I said, I'm going to link a view only of my spreadsheet. We're going to go into this last week and see what we get. But thank you again for going on this journey with me as we play around with Instagram.